So Simple tutorial. Good morning students. Welcome to SST So Simple tutorial. In the previous class we had discussed women and print in India. Today we will read the last topic of this lesson, print and censorship. So let us get started. Dear students, till now we have seen that the print culture had caught within its web children, women, poor and illiterate workers. A strong reading habit had developed among them all. Special literatures were prepared for each of the different sections of society. This literature often addressed to current social issues, but very often this was used to propagate the message of nationalism. Dear students, till 1798, the East India Company had no problems with the Indian publications. If they had any, it was against Englishmen in India who reported company's misrule and hated the actions of company officers. They were worried that such criticisms might adversely affect their trade monopoly in India. In the 1820s, the Calcutta Supreme Court had of course passed certain regulations to control freedom of press. So the company began encouraging publications of newspapers that celebrated British rule. But the attitude to the freedom of press changed only after the revolt of 1857. The influence of Indian language newspapers had grown significantly by 1870. They had become assertively nationalist. These began to be perceived as a threat by the colonial administration. This led to the enactment of the Vernacular Press Act of 1878. The term vernacular refers to the local language or dialect. Okay. The British used this term to differentiate between the local language of everyday use and the English used by them. So what were the provisions of this act? This act provided the government extensive rights to censor reports and editorials in the vernacular press. It excluded English language publications. Now the government kept tracking the vernacular newspapers. If they found something seditious, the newspaper was warned first. But if the warning was ignored, then the press was liable to be seized and the printing machinery confiscated. So the act aimed at silencing any attempts by the Indian language press to criticize the government. But despite these measures, nationalist newspapers grew in number in all parts of India. They kept on reporting on colonial misrule and encouraged nationalist activities. There were protests against any attempts that tried to throttle nationalist criticism. Bal Gangadhar Tilak students was one of the strongest critics of British rule. He edited a Marathi newspaper, Kesari. When Punjab revolutionaries were deported to Andaman in 1907, Tilak had shown a sympathy for them in his newspaper. As a result, he was imprisoned in 1908. But before we wind up the class, let us quickly glance at source F. Gandhi said in 1922, liberty of speech, liberty of the press, freedom of association. The government of India is now seeking to crush the three powerful vehicles of expressing and cultivating public opinion. The fight for Swaraj, for Khilafat, means a fight for this threatened freedom before all else. Dear students, Gandhiji had raised the demand for Swaraj. Gandhiji was of the opinion that freedom from colonial rule could be a reality only when it was preceded by first, freedom of speech, second, liberty of the press, and third, freedom of association. By that time, print media had demonstrated its power and the impact that it made over the people. The British government made all attempts to keep the press under its hold. By doing so, it hoped to keep the ignorant Indian public under its control. That is all in this class, students. Time for probable questions now. How did print culture assist the growth of nationalism in India in 19th century? This was a 3 marks question asked in 2009. Now you read your textbook and prepare answer to this question. This finishes your lesson, Print Culture and the Modern World. I hope you must have benefited from this video. We will soon meet with some new topic. Till then, keep reading and have a nice day. Thank you.